Should I show your
You can
base?
stretch out if you want.
No, should I show your base?
Yes, please.
So Danny did actually get some training in traditional Filipino martial arts, an art by the name of Pt3. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. And he created the Blade of Mind in big part because he never got the complete system. So he had to work with what he had. And one of the things he learned were the first 12 angles of attack that they do. So that's what I'm going to show you now. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, 11, 12. Now, I learned that only as a reference point to why we've strayed away from it. If you think about it, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going left to right at a horizontal plane, up and down. That's it. So we started using the clock system, and we use 3 and 9. It doesn't have to be low, it doesn't have to be high, whichever one you want to do. That's our basic left to right. But what we concentrate on is 1 and 11. And yes, an actual clock, so whatever you're facing, 1 o'clock is always going to be on your right side at this particular angle. Come over to the left, 11 o'clock is always going to be on your left side. So now we have a way to reference something, but it becomes a template for learning the mechanics of your own body. We start with the full chamber, which is all the way up here, okay? This is the kill shot. This is the full power, and we teach this from the very beginning because we want the students to have a full spectrum of movement. Later on, as they become more proficient, yes, you fight here. You don't necessarily have to go all the way up. But if I don't teach you how to do this from the go, you're gonna be here, and you're just gonna keep hitting light taps, and you're never gonna get to the point where you can just finish the fight, okay? So from the full chamber, we drop our hand. We don't extend. Just physically speaking, you're much stronger when you're closer to your center than if you were to extend out. We don't come out and then down, because that exposes your hand to get hit before you ever get your stick out there. We maintain our wrist at a 90-degree angle, so the tip of the stick comes out first. And we focus on the tip of the stick for, I guess you can say physics, physics of the strike in the development. Because the way this happens is, if my stick is back here, the tip is down here, okay? And if my target is, say, about eye level, well, in order for this tip to reach, it has to travel this entire arc to get here. But my hand that's holding the other end only has to drop this amount of space. So how quickly can you drop your hand? Which means that the tip of the stick is being forced to travel that entire distance in the split second it takes you to drop. And as you repeat this process, you develop the muscles to be able to do so. You can do it slow, you can do it fast. And again, I'm not teaching anyone how to swing a stick, but rather the motion itself, because what can that become later on? If you have a knife, those are your slashes. If you're holding a pack-out grip or ice pick grip, stabs, slashes, stabs. If you don't have anything in your hand, it's a hammer fist, palm strike, elbow. It all translates into whatever it is you need to do later on, but we keep it to the clock because it's a very simple concept that, well, although we might have to change it because in the digital world, I don't know how many people now know what an actual clock looks like. So we may have to use the word, we may have to stop using the word clock and just say our 1 and 11. And hopefully they understand the reference. So those are our most basic strikes. 1 and 11 usually what we stay with for the longest. I'm still learning new things about it and what it's capable of doing. Mind you, this idea of staying close to the body is at a medium to short range. Because if I were to try to reach out to somebody further away, I'd have to extend, but we still follow the same details. We still drop the hand first. We still get it out of the way. So we still develop the same movement. We just have to understand how to then use it for the different ranges, even when we're so close. The body is too close to me. This is a punyo. I have to hit with the butt of the weapon because it's a lot harder to hit with the tip. Not that it isn't possible, because in the exploration part of the student's growth, you start using the rest of the body. Oh, I still can hit with the tip of the stick at a very close range, because now I'm using what I learned from this exercise in conjunction to the striking pattern to develop more power or just versatility, depending on what it is you need to do. So we have 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 3, and 9. Our low line strikes are now 5 and 7. Now, typically, our 1 and 11, as we learned in the first exercise, is shoulder to knee. That's the full range of the motion. When you're close quarter, you don't have the space to go all the way down, but the angle is still the same, and the idea is that all that energy is moving down towards the ground. It's more impact. It's like punching through your opponent versus just hitting the surface. Same idea, but we're using it at this particular angle. But with our 5 and our 7, once we strike, which is usually the knee, without having to drop any further, just the extension of your arm, you can typically reach the knee with this particular strike. We don't go knee to shoulder. Rather, once we cross and get to the center line, we go straight up. That's the only variation we have with our 5 and our 7. And again, this becomes more of an idea than anything else, is to have your weapon constantly pointed at your opponent. It turns over, and then your 7's here, and again, you have your weapon pointed to your opponent. This just becomes a common language that we can refer to the students when we want to teach them a new lesson. The ideas and the details, the level 2 of keeping your hand close to your body, hitting with the tip of the stick, those again become concepts that you later use, keeping everything close to the body. You're stronger here. Being a close quarter fighter, you have to keep everything close to the body, because that's where fights usually end up. Oh, sorry.
You don't need a tippy toe.
That made you just look suspicious. So that's our basic striking pattern. And again, it's more of a reference. First, to develop the mechanics behind it, and then secondly, to have a common language, so we can say, give me an angle 1, give me an angle 11, so I can show you the concepts of what we can do with it. It translates just the same to your feet. As the clock is not moving, we say step 1 o'clock, it's always going to be your right foot. Just go back to the center of the clock. 11 o'clock is always going to be your left. And so on with your 5. Right foot, 7, your left. 3, set to 6, because nobody wants to stand like this. It's going to be awkward for an actual fight. And same thing on the other side with 9 and set 6. But if you notice, as you're looking at a clock, that's a triangle footwork. 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It's the same thing. But instead of teaching you something that would be, I guess, in most people's mind, different, it's the same as your striking pattern. So now you have that association again. You know where your 1 and your 11 is, your 5 and your 7, your 3 and your 9. So I don't have to reteach you that as much as now we can just start exploring, well, how else can we use that idea of the clock to develop other skill sets? Oh, I can step this way, outside of my opponent. Well, if I go back, well, this is the center. So now I can move to the center of my opponent. And if I go further up, now I'm moving to the outside of my opponent. Same concept, applied differently. Yet another example of how we start training the mind to look at something and see far more than what was originally given to them, which pushes the student to then explore on their own and figure out, okay, what else can I teach myself, rather than wait for my instructor to tell me.
Look familiar, guys?
Yes.
So basically, if you put your right leg back at the 5 o'clock position,
Yes,
5 o'clock. Sorry, I'm looking. I have a digital. So you guys do exactly what we do, and if you were to immediately turn both legs that way, you'd be back facing your 12 o'clock. Right. The clock always starts when the upper body turns. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful.
Right?
now we're gonna go ahead and, because I think we have a full understanding of his knowledge, we're gonna go ahead and do the physical stuff. And to start that off, we're gonna have him do a cadenza. Now, the cadenza, for us, much like your katas, but unlike your katas, ours is not structured. Whereas the old I stuff, that would be your typical kata with kempo, kaiju even, right, what you guys, pinyons. But for us, we call it it's a cadenza, which is a dance, or in the Filipino language, sayaw, which is dance. And in this dance, the legend would be that it's the one warrior fighting 100 attackers. And in that attack, he doesn't stop until the last one is dead. So it's constantly moving, which means there should be no stagnations in what he does. Now, when he does this cadenza, and he's already pointed out almost all of our strikes, and that would be the 1, 11, 5, 7, 3, 9. He's also going to add into the watiks or the abanicos. He should be adding the redondos and the floretes. And floretes.
So if a redondo is just a circular motion, whether it's here, whether it's here, a florete then is the in-between. So as you strike, you move on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. So it's smaller circles, essentially.
And florete actually means flower.
Yes.
So you see the...
Like you're doing the petals. But again, we still use the clock system to reference. Oh, 3 into a 1, into 11, into a 5.
So he's going to go ahead and demonstrate. It's going to be a 2-minute cadenza, or until Danny gets tired and says stop.
So, point of clarification?
Yes.
This is a structured dance that you
No,
taught him?
unstructured.
So this is his?
Is all floats. Yeah, no. Everybody's cadenza in our system is always going to be theirs. It's whatever he creates. And what I want you to notice when he does this cadenza, I want you to notice that he is fighting multiple opponents. So if he strikes in this angle and all abruptly turns to a different way, he probably didn't do enough damage to that guy. So that would be wrong. So please catch that, because this cadenza is designed that when he is attacking somebody, that he does more than just 1 or 2 things. He's doing enough damage that he can then move on to the next one, unless the guy comes up real fast, he takes it and comes back. And those are things that you want to notice. Does he come back right away? When he strikes out here, it means he was long range. But if he steps forward and keeps it here, that became a close range strikes. Again, please notice those things and understand that there are different things that he is doing. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you're looking for in his cadenza. Is that everybody? Any questions on that?
I thought we were going to know that.
No, they need to know. They needed to know.
You said they wouldn't know.
Yeah, it's okay.
Is that a stick? I mean, hello, yes, it's a stick, but...
Do you have a blade?
It'll be a blade.
Do you have a blade you can use?
I would love for you and friends that would want a blade.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
You want a blade?
Yep.
If it doesn't throw you
He's got
off,
one. He's got
the
one.
reason I want to see the blade is I want to see the stripes.
Yeah, he's got one. He's fine.
You see that blade?
It's the karamba.
What do you think, Sujo?
It's
Your
a
house.
kamagang.
I got real machetes right there.
I would love to.
Go ahead. You want to pick one, Nain?
Just what you're used to.
Huh?
What
There you go.
Yeah.
You know what? It's fine.
It's a whole different animal.
Is it? Let's find out.
I got to go with Danny.
don't want
Yeah, do what you're used
That is what he's used to, whatever's there.
to. Oh, okay.
Straightener?
Nope.
Yeah, good. No.
Are you comfortable with that blade before you start?
He's fine.
Okay. I got one that's more comfortable.
No, he's fine.
Again, not being the jerky guy, I just want to see the angling of the blade
Oh,
itself.
I know, right?
No, he get it.
Just getting the feel for it. All right.
This makes me feel more Mexican.
Single them out for everybody.
My grandfather actually was.
The cadenza is, of course of the dance, right? As Rick describes it. But actually, legend has it that he is fighting 1,000 warriors.
There's 1,000?
It's 1,000.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah. Well, we don't. Like, all right, let's cut it
We
down.
got 10.
No, I'm having my coffee.
This would be the reenactment of those 100 warriors that he fought off. That is what the legend
Of the cadenzas.
of the Cadenza. So in your mind, envision, and he will reenact that one dark, rainy night as he fought off.
Keep in mind, reenactment is improper verbiage
Okay?
because we can't duplicate cadenzas. The idea is that just as we train, these are organic things that happen based on what's in front of you. The difference is that now you're the one creating the opponents in your head. You're not getting any visuals, you're not getting any references. You don't have anything in front of you. So understanding, fighting this guy, he's long range, he's coming in, oh,
He's fine.
now I came in. And that one's done. Move on to the next, block, block. Oh damn, this guy's good.
Behind you.
So you ready to start?
That wasn't with the cartel.
I was hacking my way up the ladder.
Oh, because we thought we were trying to get comfortable with the plane. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that was.
I didn't have my camera on.
I think we're good. Comments.
You're good.
I thought you were down at the border again.
I was trying to make you some crocodile boots, man. I was gonna kill the crocodile myself.
Are you guys good with what he just showed? Because that really is what he was going to do.
Yeah, that's
That was fantastic.
That was fantastic. Beautiful.
It really was.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to have Danny come up, and the two of them are going to go ahead and flow.
So every time you do one, it's completely different.
yes.
Oh yes.
So you make it up as you do it every time.
Every time.
I like that.
There's because that's a fight.
Yeah.
It's never gonna work out the way you thought it would.
That's what we were talking about earlier with the alphabet of motion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And you're using the clock system, which we also use in our system. So, I mean, it's just free flowing and this shows everything. CJO does the same thing. It's fascinating.
I think for clarification, it's important to note that I had a side conversation with Rick before Nain started, because it was my suggestion to use a blade, and I thought it was unfair for testing to have, to put that into his hand, because but I like Rick's comment. Rick says, no, we don't teach him to fight with a weapon, we teach him the movement, and that's what I clearly saw there, so I think that's important to be noted.
Thank you. We know. And you're good. So
He was in his own world, man.
Is he gonna stop?
I know. You ready?
Tell me when it was over.
So we're gonna give Danny a bigger machete, just in case.
Nain, just put it down right there. I'll take care of it.
You guys know sticks, Danny? He actually did very well with that. I saw a lot of different things.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, use your own stick. Don't break mine. Sticks.
What's up with you people? You break it, you buy it.
Hey, Nain, try not to hurt Danny. We need him next weekend.
My guess, I'll be for that.
If you beat him, you're the new guy.
What we're gonna try to attempt to show you is our idea of flow. And to begin with, we start out maybe something that's structured, right? Passing. It's here. That's structured. Hey, let me put in this rolling fist that I know. and I flowed into that one. And back, oh, look at that, it just came right back. I know all these different things of what I can do here. Then I can say that, oh, I want to add this into it, boom, and then back out again. And then now maybe we're passing. I will pass and hit, he can do the same. Boom, 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 boom. And now we're back into maybe rolling again, and we're just now just changing or transitioning from one drill to the next. Okay. And now we're just flowing, and then eventually I can try to bring it back to this, and back to this, and back into that, and then so the idea of being able to flow through, starting with something that's very structured, taking components from every one of those little drills, structured drills, then we're able to inject them as we need them.
The important part about teaching those structured drills from the very beginning is that we tell the students, this is not how you fight. And as soon as they understand enough of it, you break away from it. So then they're automatically conditioned to think beyond what is being shown. Then we go back to it. Well, what else can you learn now that you understand the structure? All right? Take that lesson and use it to break away from it.
So a point of acknowledgement, I just want to be clear. So they started off with structure.